Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth so simple, yet so often ignored. Faith is the foundation of all achievement. I am not speaking of blind faith, nor of passive hope. I speak of applied faith, the kind that moves mountains, breaks limits, and builds wealth, power, and peace from the inside out. Faith is not something you were born with. It is not granted by luck or circumstance. Faith is cultivated, constructed, forged in the heat of thought, and hammered into shape through repetition. Whatever you deeply believe, you become. Whatever idea you impress upon your subconscious mind with emotion, confidence, and persistence, your mind accepts as truth. And once accepted, it begins to act on it. Let that sink in. Your subconscious mind does not judge what you feed it. It accepts what is repeated with emotion and certainty, whether it is success or failure, confidence or fear, strength or weakness. That is why belief becomes destiny. If you fill your mind daily with thoughts of strength, wealth, clarity, and possibility, your subconscious will begin crafting a life to match those thoughts. If instead you dwell on doubt, worry, poverty, and failure, then your mind will obey that command just as faithfully. Faith is a state of mind, created by affirmation, by autosuggestion, and by repetition of thought. It is not built in a moment, but it is built daily, like a muscle, like a habit, like a bridge from where you are to where you intend to go. Now, you may ask, what if I don't yet believe I can achieve my goal? Then I say this to you, begin anyway. Speak your goal aloud. Declare it. Visualize it. See yourself already in possession of what you seek. Add feeling. Add gratitude. Add certainty, even if it feels strange at first. Because in time, the strange becomes familiar, and the unfamiliar becomes real. When you affirm your belief each day, you are not lying to yourself. You are instructing yourself. You are building a new identity. And that identity becomes the foundation for action, for courage, for results. Because belief, once planted deeply enough, removes hesitation. It silences doubt. It becomes your inner command center. When others retreat, you move forward. When fear rises, you remain focused. Because you no longer hope, you don't have to believe in the goal all at once. You only have to believe that you can become the person who achieves it. This is the gift of faith. It makes impossible things feel inevitable. So today, I ask you not to merely wish. I ask you to train belief, to repeat the thoughts that serve you, to eliminate the language of fear, and to speak your future into the present until your mind, your habits, and your results begin to align. That is the beginning of true transformation. Now that we understand faith as a state of mind, a condition you create, not one you wait for, the question becomes, how do you create it? The answer, my friend, is both simple and profound. Through repetition of thought. You see, the subconscious mind responds to repetition mixed with emotion. That is how beliefs are built, brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. You may not yet believe that you can build the life you desire, but if you speak it often enough, if you say it with enough feeling, if you repeat it until the words feel like truth rather than fantasy, your subconscious mind will begin to accept it. And once it accepts it, everything changes. Because your subconscious doesn't argue. It doesn't analyze. It doesn't ask for evidence. It responds to what is repeated with conviction, good or bad, right or wrong. This is both the danger and the miracle of the human mind. If you constantly tell yourself you're weak, unlucky, undeserving, your mind accepts that command and builds a reality to match. But if you deliberately feed it strength, clarity, abundance, spoken aloud, repeated daily, charged with emotion, your subconscious will go to work creating new beliefs, new behaviors, and new outcomes. This is the power of autosuggestion, the practice of planting thoughts in your own mind. Do not underestimate it. Every leader, every innovator, every wealthy individual I've studied has used this technique, whether they knew it or not. They filled their minds with visions of victory long before the world ever saw it. They created belief from within before the results ever appeared without. You can do the same. I urge you today, not tomorrow, to begin creating your own affirmation of faith. It must be personal. It must be specific. And it must be repeated with emotion. Let it sound like this. I am becoming the person capable of achieving my goal. I believe in my ability to learn, grow, and adapt. I know that success is mine because I refuse to quit. Say it morning and night. Say it with your eyes closed and your imagination active. See yourself already possessing the thing you seek. Feel the joy, the certainty, the confidence of having it now. This is not fantasy. This is training. Mental training. Emotional training. Faith training. Each time you speak your affirmation, You strengthen a neural path. You rewire old doubts. You reinforce a new identity. And that identity? It determines how you act, how you speak, what you expect, and what you receive. Because belief is the root of all behavior. You don't act boldly unless you first believe in your right to succeed. You don't persist through challenge unless you believe that victory is possible. You don't invest effort unless you believe the result is worth it. And where does that belief come from? Repetition, spoken thought, emotional certainty. This is how faith is built, not in temples or textbooks, but in the daily whispers you speak to yourself. You are your own sculptor. Your thoughts are your chisel. And faith is the form taking shape beneath your hands. So speak your future. Repeat it. Believe it into being. That is the essence of creation. Let me make one thing absolutely clear. Faith and fear cannot live in the same mind. They're emotional opposites. And where one exists in strength, the other cannot survive. Faith is the builder. Fear is the destroyer. One moves you forward. The other paralyzes. And it is you who decides which one stays. Now, I don't say this to shame fear. Fear is natural. Fear will visit. But what matters is what you do when it knocks. Do you invite it in? Feed it? Let it sleep in the guest room of your mind? Or do you meet it with the weapon of belief, the sword of clarity, and the shield of repetition? You see, the human mind is a fertile field, and what you plant, grows. Plant fear, and you harvest hesitation. Plant faith, and you grow momentum. But don't think you can plant both and get peace. That garden will choke itself out. You must choose which thoughts you cultivate, which emotions you fuel, which inner voice you amplify. And you do that by what you repeat daily. If you begin each day with thoughts like, I'm not ready, or what if I fail? Then fear becomes your guide. But if you begin with, I am capable, I am growing, this is mine, then faith takes the wheel. Let me tell you, the people who succeed are not the ones without fear. They are the ones whose faith is louder. They have built belief by feeding it. They have planted certainty by speaking it. They have watered confidence through thought, repetition, and motion. This is how you become unstoppable, not by being fearless, but by becoming faithful. Faith doesn't mean everything will go your way. It means you will keep going regardless. It doesn't mean the path will be easy. It means the result will be worth it. So ask yourself now, what thoughts do I repeat most often? Are they rooted in faith or in fear? That answer will shape your next week, next year, and possibly your next decade. And if the answer isn't what you'd like it to be, change it. Change the script. Change the voice. Change the inner monologue. Start small if you must. A few minutes each morning. A new phrase on your wall. A different tone when you speak to yourself. Because every change in life begins with a change in belief. And every change in belief begins with a change in language. Say it. Feel it. Own it. I am becoming the person I was meant to be. I do not fear failure. I learn from it. My future belongs to me because I am building it today. Let those be your thoughts. Let those be your prayers. Let those be your declarations of faith. Because where faith lives, fear cannot. Faith is not just a feeling. It is not something you whisper in silence and hope will do the rest. Faith is a command to act. You see, belief that is not backed by behavior is just fantasy in disguise. True faith expresses itself through action, confident, deliberate, forward-moving action. Let me be clear. You don't wait to act until you believe. You act in a way that builds belief. And what kind of action am I talking about? I mean speaking with conviction, walking with purpose, showing up to your day as if success were not a question of if, but when. If you want to be wealthy, act like someone who respects time, energy, and opportunity. If you want to be a leader, speak with clarity, listen deeply, and decide with courage. If you want to grow, then seek challenge, not comfort. Behave as if your goal were already in progress, not in doubt. Because when your actions and your affirmations align, your mind takes notice. It says, this is real. We're serious now. And your subconscious begins to work with you, not against you. But most people never reach this point. Why? Because they wait for the belief to feel perfect before they move. They wait for confidence to be complete before they speak. They wait for fear to vanish before they commit. That day never comes. You build faith through motion. You strengthen belief by becoming the person who does the thing, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's inconvenient. Faith is not born from ease. It is born from evidence. And evidence comes from action. So ask yourself now, not later, not someday. Ask, what would the best version of me do today? Then do it. Not because it feels easy, not because you're ready, but because it's who you are training to become. Every small step you take is proof to your mind that you are growing. that you are capable, that you are moving forward. And when you see yourself moving forward, belief takes root. One step leads to another. One action feeds one thought. And soon, momentum replaces hesitation. Let me remind you, your mind does not respond to words alone. It responds to alignment. When what you think, what you say, and what you do all point in the same direction. That is the kind of faith that moves mountains, not because the mountain gets smaller, but because you get stronger. Don't wait for outside proof. Create it inside. Faith is not passive. It is not soft. It is not optional. It is the driving force that transforms ideas into action, action into habits, and habits into results. It is the invisible hand that builds visible lives. So from this day forward, make a commitment to speak with faith, to walk with faith, to act as though your goal is not a dream, but a certainty you are stepping into. That is how transformation begins, not with the world believing in you, but with you believing in you and behaving like it. Let me now tell you something that too many people learn too late. Faith is not only personal, it is environmental. You do not build belief in a vacuum. You build it in a world that is constantly speaking back to you. And everything that speaks, people, media, habits, noise, either feeds your faith or your fear. Let me ask you, who do you spend your time with? What voices do you let near your ears? What words do you allow to echo in your mind? Because I assure you, those voices are not neutral. They are either lifting you or limiting you. They are either planting belief or pouring poison into your thoughts. If you want to protect your faith, you must protect your environment. Your mind is fertile ground, but it is not immune to weeds. You cannot afford to plant seeds of greatness while letting others stomp on the soil. Surround yourself with those who see possibilities, who speak in solutions, not in problems, who remind you of your power, not your past, who talk about growth, not gossip, because faith is contagious, and so is doubt. If you spend your time around people who expect mediocrity, you will start lowering your own standards just to fit in. If you constantly hear, "That's not realistic," or "Don't get your hopes up," your mind will begin to shrink to match their limitations. But when you place yourself in the presence of those who believe, something shifts. You begin to stretch. You begin to speak with more conviction. You begin to expect more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of possibility. And that is the space where faith flourishes. You don't need to be surrounded by hundreds. Even one voice of encouragement can overpower a dozen voices of doubt if you listen to the right one. And yes, that voice might need to be your own at first. That's okay. If no one believes in you yet, be the first. Speak words of faith to yourself every day until they become your internal dialogue. You will find, in time, that the world mirrors your inner state. As you believe in your path, others will feel it. As you speak with clarity, others will listen differently. As you move with purpose, others will begin to follow, even if they can't explain why. That is the magnetic power of trained faith. It leads, it influences, it multiplies, but only when you defend it. So I say this to you. Be ruthless with your attention. Be careful with your conversations. Be intentional with your company. If you are building a mind of belief, do not let it be shaken by the noise of those who gave up on their own dreams. You are not here to fit in. You are here to rise up. Surround yourself with fire, and your faith will burn brighter. Surround yourself with ash, and you will choke. This is your life, your vision, your inner world. Protect it like something priceless, because it is. And remember, your faith may be the light that someone else needs. So build it strong. Let it shine. Let me share a truth that many overlook. Faith does not only change what you do, it changes who you are. It is not just a fuel for achievement. It is the architect of identity. Because here's what I've learned from years of studying success. You don't succeed by force. You succeed by alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and identity all point toward the same destination. And that starts inside. You see, most people focus on doing. What should I do to succeed? What habits do I need? What strategy should I follow? But the deeper question is, who am I becoming? Because your actions follow your beliefs, and your beliefs are shaped by your identity. And here's the powerful part. Identity is not fixed. It is not a life sentence. It is fluid, flexible, moldable by thought, repetition, and above all, faith. When you affirm your belief in yourself daily, when you visualize your goals with emotion, when you speak with certainty, you are not just influencing your behavior. You are rewriting the story of who you are. You go from, I hope I can do this, to, I'm the kind of person who does this. And once that switch flips, once you start identifying with strength, confidence, and capability, everything changes. Doubt loses its grip. Excuses feel out of place. Procrastination becomes uncomfortable because it no longer fits the new version of you. That's the real power of faith. It rewires your internal model. It installs a new belief system that says, this is who I am now. You stop chasing success like an outsider. You begin creating it like an insider because you believe you deserve it, and you're acting accordingly. And that, my friend, is where consistency is born. People don't struggle with action because they're lazy. They struggle because their actions conflict with their self-image. But when you upgrade that self-image through faith, the actions come naturally. You no longer force discipline, you embody it. You no longer try to be confident, you walk in it. You no longer hope to succeed, you expect to. And not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. Let me ask you directly. Who are you becoming today? What identity are you building with your thoughts, your words, your repetition? If you don't like the answer, change it. It doesn't take years. It takes decision, followed by daily reinforcement. Speak like the person you want to be. Move like the person you want to be. Think like the person you want to be. And in time, you won't be pretending. You'll be living it. That is the transformation faith offers, not as magic, not as myth, but as mental discipline applied with emotion and persistence. It's available to you right now. All it requires is a choice. To believe in the version of you that already exists, just waiting for permission to rise. Let me speak plainly now. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes, your failures, your upbringing, or your circumstances. Faith breaks chains. Faith rewrites stories. Faith says, no matter where I began, I decide where I go next. Too many people live like prisoners of yesterday. They wear the labels others gave them, not smart enough, not good enough, too late, too old. And worst of all, they believe them. But hear me, those labels only stick if you give them permission. Your past was real, yes, but your belief about it is what determines your future. If you continue to define yourself by who you used to be, you will keep repeating what you used to do. But when you activate faith, real faith, you release yourself from old definitions. You step into a new frame, a new image, a new identity. And you don't need the world's approval to do it. You don't need anyone's permission but your own. This is the beauty of faith. It gives you the power to choose again, to think a new thought, to tell a new story, to move with a new purpose. Every day becomes a doorway, not a sentence. Every thought becomes a brushstroke, not a cage. You may have failed before. So have I. So has every person who ever did something worth doing. But failure is not who you are. It is something that happened. The question is, what meaning will you give it? Faith allows you to see failure not as a wall, but as a mirror, a teacher, a stepping stone, a signpost saying, not here. Keep going. When you carry faith, you carry vision. And when vision becomes stronger than memory, your future takes the lead. Let me ask you something powerful. If you were to let go of all doubt tied to your past, if you were to release every label that no longer serves you, if you were to believe deeply that you are allowed to become more, who would you be? What would you say yes to? What would you stop apologizing for? What would you finally begin? You see, faith is not about denying your past. It's about reframing it. It's about saying, yes, that happened. And now I choose something greater. That is not fantasy. That is freedom. You have the right to evolve, to expand, to outgrow who you used to be. And faith is the tool that makes that possible. But it must be used daily, repeatedly, boldly. Don't let a single failure from years ago become a life sentence. Don't let someone else's opinion become your internal narrator. The only voice that must guide you now is the one you train in faith. Let it speak louder. Let it speak truer. Let it speak life. And soon, your past will not limit you. It will launch you. Let me ask you something personal now. How do you respond when the world shakes? When the deal falls through? When the numbers drop? When the people you counted on walk away? When life throws you a storm instead of sunshine? What do? This is where faith reveals its true value, not just as a motivator, but as a shield. Because real faith is not just about believing when everything goes right. Real faith holds steady when everything looks wrong. You see, most people live by external conditions. If things go well, they feel confident. If things go wrong, they fall apart. But faith teaches you something deeper. Your peace does not have to depend on your circumstances. When your belief is rooted in purpose, when you've trained your thoughts, when your identity is anchored, you remain steady while others stumble. You don't panic, you assess. You don't retreat, you adapt. You don't give up, you get better. Why? Because you no longer place your emotional state in the hands of the outside world. You've built it internally on the unshakable ground of faith. This is emotional mastery, not from control, but from belief. Because belief whispers, "This is temporary. This is training. This is shaping me into something stronger." And when that becomes your reflex, you become dangerous to failure. Because failure can't frighten you anymore. You've made peace with discomfort. You've decided that obstacles are part of the path, not a detour from it. And now, you move differently. Where others see crisis, you see opportunity. Where others freeze, you find focus. Where others doubt, you deepen your discipline. That is the power of belief under pressure. Faith is not just for the good days. Faith is the anchor on the worst days. It holds your mind while the waves rise. It steadies your focus when fear knocks. And let me tell you, fear will knock. But if you've done the work, repeating your affirmations, visualizing your future, building a core of confidence, then when fear arrives, you don't open the door. You look it in the eye and say, "Not today. I know who I am. I know where I'm going." This emotional strength is not arrogance. It's awareness. You're not blind to risk. You just no longer bow to it. You're not pretending challenges don't exist. You're choosing not to shrink in front of them. Faith creates resilience. Faith gives you staying power. Faith tells you, "This is part of the price, and I'm willing to pay it," because you know what's on the other side. And that knowing, that inner certainty, is stronger than anything the outside world can throw at you. So the next time life tests you, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this preparing me for?" And remind yourself, I'm not here by accident. I'm here by decision, and nothing will take that away from me. There is a strange and wonderful thing that happens when your faith becomes solid, when it's no longer something you practice once in a while, but something you live, breathe, and embody. The world begins to respond. Doors open. People appear. Resources seem to arrive right on time. Coincidences align so precisely you can no longer call them coincidences. And you may wonder, where was all this before? The answer is simple. It was always there. But now you see it, because faith makes you ready. Faith sharpens your awareness. It tunes your mind to see what others overlook. It positions you to act quickly, confidently, and decisively, while the rest of the world hesitates, overthinks, and waits. Faith doesn't just help you believe in opportunity. It helps you recognize it. It makes you alert, prepared, and open. And that openness, that clarity, it draws success toward you. You become a magnet, not through force, but through alignment. Because when you walk in faith, people sense it. They feel your confidence. They hear the conviction in your voice. They're drawn to your energy, not because of what you have, but because of who you've become. Faith isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. It's a quiet power that speaks without words. I'm going somewhere, and I'm not waiting for permission. And that kind of mindset attracts those who can help you get there. It brings allies, mentors, opportunities, sometimes in the most unexpected forms. You don't have to chase every opportunity. You only need to be ready when it arrives. That's the key. Faith makes you ready. The fearful mind says, "What if I'm not enough?" The faithful mind says, "When the time comes, I'll rise to meet it." This mindset changes everything. Because let me remind you, opportunity is not rare. It's everywhere. It's in the conversation you almost didn't have. It's in the email you nearly ignored. It's in the idea you dismissed too quickly. But only those with faith can spot it, because only they are trained to look forward instead of back, up instead of down, and possibility instead of probability. The average mind sees problems. The faithful mind sees patterns. The average mind sees risk. The faithful mind sees a window. This is not magic. It's perception. And perception is shaped by belief. So if you want to attract more opportunity, build more faith. Speak with more conviction. Think with more clarity. Move with more purpose. And you will find that life becomes more cooperative. Not because life changed, but because you did. Faith expands your vision. And the wider your vision, the more doors you'll notice. So walk forward, eyes open, mind alert, heart grounded in belief. And the next time someone says, "You're lucky," you'll smile, because you'll know better. You weren't lucky. You were ready. And now we come to the close. But not the end. Because if you've listened carefully, if you felt the weight of these words, then something inside you has already begun to shift. You are no longer asking, "Can I?" You are starting to say, I will. You are no longer hoping someone else will show you the way. You are realizing you are the way. That is what faith does. It hands you the pen and says, write your story, and write it in bold. You may still feel unsure. That's normal. No one is born with unshakable belief. We build it. We rehearse it. We choose it, over and over. And in the moments you can't find enough belief in yourself, borrow it. Borrow it from these words. Borrow it from someone who sees something in you. Borrow it from the version of you you haven't met yet, the one standing on the other side of fear, waiting for you to arrive. Because the only thing standing between you and your goal is the belief that you can't get there. And that belief, that's optional. So replace it. Replace it with faith, not blind, but earned, built through repetition, strengthened by thought, fueled by action. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You only need to be persistent in feeding the right thoughts to your mind. Speak your goal out loud, twice a day. See yourself living it. Feel it. Believe it. Act accordingly. Not once, but daily, until your subconscious mind not only accepts it, but begins to expect it. And once that shift occurs, once belief becomes your default instead of doubt, you will move through life differently. People will notice. Doors will open. You will walk not as a seeker, but as someone who has already claimed what is theirs. Because that's what faith is. It's the quiet decision that says, I no longer negotiate with fear. It's the unwavering voice that says, I already have it. Now I'm just catching up. So let this be your turning point. Let this be the moment you stop asking for permission to believe. Let this be the day you draw the line and say, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is where I'm going. And nothing will move me. The world will try. Doubt will try. Old habits will try. But they are no match for someone who has decided. So now, the only question left is, have you decided? Have you decided to walk by faith? To build it with words, fuel it with repetition, and live by it with courage? If so, then I will leave you with one final truth. What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So go ahead, conceive it, believe it, and now, go achieve it.